Let's button up the 3-year-old preps with the Santa Anita Derby, the shortest field of all the Derby preps. Let's head on out there, take a look at the field. Only 6 of them signed on. Post-time favorite was the 2-year-old champion Game Winner. He was bet down to odds of 1-2. He was not the only Baffert in the field, though. Roadster went out there with Mike Smith aboard, but you also had Instagrand, who was going out to 2 turns for the first time. You had Nolo Contesto. You had a couple of intriguing alternatives if you wanted to go against the juvenile champ. Ultimately, the juvenile champ ran a big race. Not quite big enough. Roadster gets the job done. Here's the stretch run of the Santa Anita Derby.
And he fights back. Instagram Game Winner. Roadster is finding his best ride in the center of the track, putting in a big effort. Game Winner between horses. Instagram at the rail. And here's Roadster storming home. Roadster on the outside and Game Winner go on with it. Roadster so confidently handled. And Roadster gets up to win the Santa Anita Derby ultra impressively.
Roadster gets it done at odds of 3-1 over Game Winner, odds of 1-2, and Instagram rounds out the try at odds of 3-1. Let's take a look at Roadster. 3 of 4 lifetime, never out of the money in 4 lifetime starts, over $706,000 in career earnings, owned by Speedway Stable LLC, trained by Bob Baffert, bred by Stone Farm in Kentucky, ridden to victory by Mike Smith, and the pedigree he is by Quality Road out of a Silver Ghost mare named Ghost Dancing. Interesting to look at these figures for this race. 98 Beyer speed figure for Roadster as opposed to a 113 Timeform US rating for Timeform US. That is both the raw number as well as the pace adjusted number. The reason I say it's interesting, I've brought up the 20-point differential between the two in the past. If you tack 20 onto the Beyer of 98, you're looking at a 118. It's a big number. You take 20 away from the 113, down to a 93, not nearly as impressive as a 98 is. And I know 5 points may not sound like much, and going 1.25 miles, speed figure is not the end-all be-all, but I do find it a little bit intriguing that there is a pretty legitimate discrepancy between the two figs as far as this race is concerned. Game Winner, 97 Beyer, a 115 pace-adjusted Timeform US rating, 112 overall. With the raw number, you look at the final 1/8 of a mile for both Roadster and Game Winner. Roadster comes home in 12:77, Game Winner 12:94. I wonder if part of that was because going into the far turn, Roadster seemed to lose, I don't want to say lose touch a little bit, but there was a little bit of gapping between he and those front horses, the front 4 that all just went for home. And Mike Smith, I think it was a great ride from him. He just waited, bought his time, then got into the horse, and boy, once he leveled off, he finished very, very well. I thought both of the top 2 ran pretty big races. They'll both be bound for Louisville. I think Roadster's a really nice horse. I think it took a little while to get him back. There were a number of things. You can read plenty of the articles written by whether it's Jay Privman or Steve Anderson or Brad Free out in Southern California. They've got all those sorts of things covered, but Roadster had some quarter crack issues that he had to deal with. The weather, obviously the ongoings out at Santa Anita. So things did not necessarily go as one would love, but they got that N1X into him most recently, and then he comes back here and he gets a Grade 1 victory in the Santa Anita Derby. I think he's a primetime player for the Kentucky Derby, as well as Game Winner. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned a little bit that Game Winner hasn't... Has he improved? I know he's only run twice here as a 3-year-old, but he was running these type of figures or comparable figures last year as a 2-year-old. I'm wondering, has he taken that necessary step from 2 to 3 in order to really continue to improve? It's still far too early to make a conclusive statement, but I think it is something to keep an eye on. Instagram, he didn't run badly at all. I mean, he was not humbled and not embarrassed by these horses. He was only a little more than 2 lengths off of it. I just still feel like he's going to be better going shorter, going 1 turn. And Nolo Contesto, I thought he ran well. I still think he's going to be a nice horse going forward. I think he's going to need a little bit more time, though. Perhaps he'll be that later developing kind of 3-year-old. Let's get him into the summer, get some of those races under his belt. Maybe we can look at a race like the Travers down the road. But for the immediate time, I think he's a little bit overmatched, but I still have faith in him. I think he's going to be a nice horse. And the last 2 horses, they were both 66-1 or greater. They were both overmatched in here, perhaps shorter, perhaps different surfaces for each of them. But Roadster and Game Winner, they both finished 1-2. It's a Baffert exacta. They're both on to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. Roadster, I think it's a good effort, and I think the versatility that he has, I think there's a lot to like about this horse. 98 Beyer, 113 pace-adjusted and raw Timeform US ratings. That's something else to keep an eye on going forward. A little bit of a discrepancy between those 2 figs. We'll find out which one is a little bit closer when it's all said and done.